So you're not the best free motion quilter yet? Don't have your skill set all the way up? You've pieced your quilt and you want it to look really, really good? Well, your embroidery machine can be your partner. You want to quilt your quilt and make it look like you're really, really good? Well, let's partner up with the Baby Lock Altair and let's see if we can get some really fine quilting done. I'm Cathy and this is Sewing Tech Talk. We have a giveaway for today's video, and it is a pretty spectacular one if I do say so myself. It is of Nita Good Design, the Baroque quilt, and it's for creating an embroidered quilt, and it even makes it into trapunto. There's 20 different designs in 5 sizes each, so oh my gosh, this is a pretty cool giveaway. So every time you like, share, or comment, you're entered for a chance to win this great set of designs. So good luck and subscribe when you're there, because we have more quilting content coming with embroidery and all kinds of different stuff too. Now, what do we need if we're going to be quilting our quilt with embroidery? Well, first of all, of course, you need a quilt. And this quilt is all finished. I layered it. I'm in the process of quilting it with my embroidery machine. And I did some quilting on my own as well. You don't necessarily have to do the entire quilt in your embroidery machine. Use it for the parts that might be hard to do. Maybe you want some pretty feathers or some special design. That's the time to bring your embroidery machine in, because it will do the fancy stuff and then you can do the other stuff around it. So for that very special quilt, that's a really good opportunity to use your embroidery machine. What do you need? Well, you need your quilt, you need it layered, and of course you need some thread. So this is a thread I would use if I was quilting my quilt without an embroidery machine, and I've wound a bobbin with it. It's a cotton. Could you use embroidery thread? Well, sure. You could use a rayon or a polyester embroidery thread, and those would work really, really well. In fact, if you're doing a quilt for a kid that's going to be washed 10 bazillion times, use a polyester. It's going to last through all those multiple washings. I have a handout that goes through all of this fun information. So go to the description of the video and look for, it's usually highlighted in blue. Click on that, and that takes you to the link to all of my different handouts. There's lots of handouts, not just for this video, but a lot that have to do with using your embroidery machine and quilting. It's all there for you to download and read and enjoy. More information than I can even give you in a short period of time. Now, what we really need for quilting our quilt with our embroidery machine is we need a design that's going to work. A lot of embroidery designs are beautiful. They create beautiful embroideries. Not all of them are super appropriate for quilting on a quilt. If we want our quilt to look like we quilted it, when we're doing it, we just have a single line, and it's usually in a continuous line. So a lot of embroidery designs, they just don't do that. They use all kinds of special fancy stitches to get the point across. So let's check out some of the designs that are built into the Altair and see if they might be appropriate for to use in our quilt. We want a continuous line if we can, without a lot of thread trims, and we don't necessarily want fill stitches. So let's go to the machine. So I'm going to go to embroidery, and I know there's some built-in designs that I want to show you. Under here, this category here is red work, and they're single color designs, and they look like they might be appropriate to use in a quilt. So let's choose this one in the center. There it is. Looks like it might work. I'm going to hit set. Now on the Altair, there's some places that you can go. So if you want to check out a design and see it in a little bit more detail, it really has a couple options to show you how that design's going to stitch out and what it's going to look like. Hidden in this upper right hand corner up here is this little hoopy looking thing. I touch that and my screen's going to change. Now it's going to show me this design in the largest hoop for the Altair, which is 9.5 by 14. I could see it in the 9.5 by 9.5 inch hoop, and the other hoops are grayed out because this design's much too big for them. Now I want to see that just a little bit closer. So when I touch the magnifying glass, it's going to show me that this quilt is, this design might work for my quilt because it looks like there's not a lot of fill stitches in there. Now, I'd love to see it stitched out. If I touch this design with the arrow and the needle, I can have it stitch out even fast or slow. Let's see what this looks like. and I can watch it stitch out, and it looks like it might work. It looks pretty much like a single layer going around. And what I'm also looking for is to see if the machine is going to stop and trim threads. When you trim a thread on a machine, when it uses that cut feature, it leaves a little thread tail on the back. That's not necessarily what I want to have on the back of my quilt. So I'm going to check for that. Now I can turn that trim feature off on my machine when I'm quilting with my embroidery machine. I think this design might work. Let's check out another and let's see what that looks like. So let's finish that one up. That's a pretty good choice. Okay, now I'm going to come back to pretty much the same area of embroidery here, and let's go into the third category. And I know there's a pretty spectacular design on the next page. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that looks like I'm the world's best quilter, right? So let's see that a little bit bigger using our newfound feature. We'll bring that up and let's magnify that bad boy. Oh, that looks pretty cool. That would really be a fancy quilt. Now let me see it stitched out and see if it's appropriate. I'm going to hit this and it's going to show me that design being stitched out. I can see something right away. I can see that it's multiple colors and it's changing and it has those thread trims. I'm going to stop it. So I can turn that feature off. I could have it stitch all in one color when I go to the embroidery part of the machine. And I might do that. But the other thing that I really like about this design is notice how it's stitching first the one quadrant and then the next. What if I'm doing a quilt where I have triangles as setting squares? I know I can use this design in there, and I automatically have a design that would fit for my whole blocks and for my triangles. I'd have to stop the machine, but I think I could do that. So let's finish it out and see what that's going to look like. That's a pretty cool design. I think that would be a really nice whole cloth quilt. So I'm going to touch OK. Now, when I'm doing my bee quilt, I purchased a design that's not built into the machine. I purchased it and I put it on a small jump drive and I brought it into the machine and I stored it into the memory because I tweaked it a little bit for size. Let's see where that design is. I'm going to come home. No, I'm not using that one, but I might use it later because it's pretty cool. When I go into embroidery, I'm going to go into the memory of the machine. And I know I have that design set in the memory. There's a whole bunch of ones I've been playing with. And where are my bees? Oh, I've been playing a lot, you can tell. There they are. Now there are my bees. Now I'm going to hoop up the quilt. We're going to go to the cutting table and I'm going to show you hooping up the quilt on a flat surface because you really want to get it nice and secure in that hoop. I know this is my bee design and I changed it just a little bit. Now you can tweak the size a little bit in your embroidery design. If you have the design that you've chosen and your block is a little bit different, you can go ahead and change that size pretty significantly. But I want to caution you that you don't necessarily want the design to fill up the entire hoop. Now, I'm using the 9.5 by 9.5 hoop, and what I can do on the machine is I can see how big that hoop is. If I go to the settings of the machine, I can pull up that hoop size as a little outline on my workspace. So there's my 9.5 by 9.5 hoop, and if I want to, I could even have a grid on that to show me exactly where I'm placing my design within that. Now, let's turn that grid off because that's you can be able to see that. Good to know that it's there though. So there's my 9.5 and my 9.5 hoop. Can you see the outline? And I can see that my bees don't fill that entire hoop. That's great, because if I don't hoop my quilt correctly, I'm going to be able to rotate it and move it into place using IQ positioning. So let's head over to the cutting table. I'm going to have a flat surface. I'm going to show you how to hoop this, a couple things about hoops, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to quilt the next block in my quilt. So I'll see you at the cutting table. Let's talk a little bit about hoops now that we're at the cutting table, which I've set up as a hooping station. I put some non-slip shelf liner on it and taped it down, so my hoop's not going to move when I hoop. But I drew a 5x7 square on a piece of stabilizer, and in the Altair's 5x7 hoop, I tried to hoop it up so that I could kind of see if I could put it at the center, and I thought I did a pretty good job. Then I stitched a 5x7 rectangle around it, and I don't know if you can see, but I was off by just a little bit. That's why you really need to choose a design or match a design to your hoop, in that the hoop is bigger than your design. So you have room to move that design around once you get everything hooped. Because once you get it hooped, you don't necessarily want to rehoop it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hoop up the quilt and use the positioning app, the IQ positioning app, to take a picture of how we have hooped it. That's going to show up in the screen of the machine, and we can move everything to precisely fit it inside our block. So try to hoop it the best you can, and make sure your design is smaller than the hoop that you're going to use. That's why you want the biggest hoop that you can get. So now let's hoop up this quilt. This hoop is the baby lock hoop, and it has an adjusting screw right here, and that's where we're going to tighten the hoop. Now, and it lifts up so that you can leave the hoop flat, which is kind of a great feature. You might want to loosen up the outside hoop because this quilt has thickness. Now, we don't necessarily need to use stabilizer when we're embroidering our quilt, because the 3 layers are going to stabilize it really, really well. And we've chosen our design well so that we know it's going to not be this great, huge, high stitch count design. Now I'm going to take my hoop, and it's oriented towards me so I can see what I'm doing. So you're kind of backwards, but I have it so that I'm putting the marks on the hoop, and there's marks on the hoop that you can use to make sure that everything is centered. So I put them there, and I'm just going to slide it so it fits on where my outer ring is on the table, and I can kind of feel where that is. Now I can move it around a little bit, but that outer ring isn't going to move when it's on that non-slid shelf liner thing. So now here it is, and I'm going to get it in there, and I'm going to push it on down, and I'm going to hold it on down, and that's set in pretty good. If it didn't, you might have to loosen that outer ring. Now this is the multifunction screwdriver that comes with the Baby Lock Altair, and you can use it in 3 different positions. I've changed it over here so that it's in the hoop driver position, and this fits right on that outer screw of the hoop. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to tighten it up. You want to tighten it up for all of your embroidery, really. Now you don't want to go crazy too tight. You don't want to break your hoop, but you want it to be nice and secure. Remember, stabilizer means that the fabric stays stabilized in your hoop. We're not using stabilizer, but we want our quilt to stay in. Not only that, but this is a big thing. So you want it not to be pulling out of that hoop once it's been hooped and on the machine. Now in your handout, I have a couple scenarios for if it's a really, really big quilt, how you can get it to fit in your machine the best that you can. A couple different tricks to maybe reduce some of the bulk while you're doing your embroidery part. But what I have done is I've made sure I have the smallest amount of fabric that's in that harp of the machine. And if I had to, I could rotate my design to make sure that it was in the right orientation. So keep that in mind. So here we are, we're ready to go. Now the final test is, can I pick this up by the quilt, and will the hoop stay in position? So that is well hooped. That quilt is probably not going to come out. So let's head to the machine. We have our design. We have our quilt hooped. Now all we have to do is position it and stitch it. So what I'm going to do is take a picture of what's in the hoop with IQ positioning, and then after that, I'll meet you right at the machine. So we used the IQ positioning app and sent an image to the machine so I can see exactly how I hooped it. So if you bring up that image, it's pretty amazing that you can see your design on top of how you actually hooped it. And now I can use the picture to position it precisely. So I'm here at the embroidery screen, and if I go to layout, what I can do is I can bring up move keys to move it just a little teeny tiny bit if I need to do that. I also have the option to rotate it. Now, if I need to rotate it, it means I didn't get it in the hoop absolutely straight, and it's pretty challenging to do. So I can rotate it 1/10 of a degree to make sure that everything is exactly where I want it to be. So if you hoop it wrong, you can stitch it right. So that's pretty cool that I have that. I'm looking at it, you know, and I did a pretty good job. I might want to just do a rotation a little tiny bit, and then I'm going to move it down just a hair, and then that's pretty good. Now, I have another way to check to make sure that I've precisely placed it. So, on the screen, I'm going to come down to what's called the trial key. And on this key, I can send the needle to any of the 4 corners of the design or any of the 4 sides. And actually have the machine trace it around. Now, where does that needle come down? All I have to do is touch up here in the W plus, and a little light shines down where that needle's going to come down on the quilt. So that really helps me know where that needle's going to be. So if I go to the left-hand side, that you can see where the X is going to be, but on the quilt itself, I actually have that light shining down exactly where that needle's going to come down. And then I can go to all 4 corners and the sides. And I can look and see, I can get an absolute visual representation that everything is absolutely set. And when I'm happy, I'm pretty much good to go. So, I got it set in there. Now, when you quilt a quilt, you kind of don't want that little thread tails like I said at the bottom. So when I put a bobbin in, on this machine, I used my regular cotton quilting thread that I'm going to use at the bobbin. I didn't trim it off, because this has a quick set bobbin and you can trim it off, but I left a tail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the very first stitch of the quilting part of the design. Now, this design has the different parts where I could do it a quilt as I go. So I'm just going to bypass those. I'm going to go to the plus and minus needle, go to the next color, the next color, the next color. There's my quilting design now, and I want to go 1 stitch in. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that thread up by just doing needle down and needle up. And then I'm just going to pull that bobbin thread on up by passing my stylus underneath. And that pulled that bobbin thread on up. So it's just like I'm doing a regular quilt, except the embroidery machine's going to do it. So this is going to take just 4 more minutes to quilt my little quilt design. I'm going to do that, and then we're going to finish up and send it off to George. So I'm going to get this started, and I'll see you in about 4 minutes flat. Finished embroidering, and I turned off that scissor function, so it didn't cut at the very end, and I don't want it to. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go needle on up, and I can pull that bobbin thread on up, and I have a long tail if I need to bury it. Let's see how good I placed it. Would you look at that? It fits right inside of where I wanted it to fit in. I'm pretty proud of myself. So I'm ready to go, put in my last and final block. One other thing I put in your handout is a little kind of message. You don't necessarily have to quilt the entire quilt with the backing on there if you want to do some embroidery and leave that trims in. So this is a suggestion in your handout. I did some background quilting. I'm going to layer it and just do some outline quilting with my digital dual feed. So you can have all kinds of options. So the Altair, big enough machine to get your quilts quilted, all kinds of features to make sure you look like a 5-star quilter. I'm going to send it off to George. Thank you for joining me today, and go out there and make some quilts and quilt them up.
Thanks, Cathy. That was an incredible presentation. Don't forget, you can click on the link and download Cathy's lesson guide on today's presentation. But I want to take a couple moments to share with you my favorite features on the Baby Lock Altair. I believe the Altair is dollar for dollar the most advanced machine on the market. There are machines that sell for thousands of dollars more that do not offer the same features. You know, the embroidery features are incredible. The 9.5 inch by 14 inch embroidery area, you can really expand your horizon with embroidery, and there's 494 built-in designs. You also have that 10.1 inch color screen that gives you all kinds of editing capability, from color to sizing to also you can actually take designs and do automatic stippling around it. It has 30 built-in fonts and 5 jumbo monograms. Now with the fonts, you have all kinds of editing capability. You can even take and put in a name or a saying and then do an applique border and turn it into applique automatically. It also has the IQ Designer. Now, this is an app that you use your smart device like a phone or an iPad, and you can send an image, a graphic image, to the machine, and it will turn it into embroidery instantly. The embroidery is amazing, but what about the sewing and quilting? This machine has 11.25 inches of space and 5 inches of height, so you can fit even the largest quilts into this machine. It also has automatic fabric sensors that will sense the thickness of the fabric, so it will set the right pressure, and with the automatic tension it gives you perfect fabric control, from heavy denim to very sheer fabric to working with elastic or even a t-shirt collar. This machine truly controls the fabric with perfection. But also it has the digital dual feed, and what that does is that is a belt-driven walking foot system that's controlled by the motor of the machine, and you can control, even like here with this Minky, perfectly. So you have so many amazing features with this machine. But what about an amazing deal? The MSRP, the manufacturer's suggested list price of this machine, is $10,999. And it's worth that for all the amazing things that it does. We right now have it on sale for $79.99. And we're offering free shipping across the United States. Plus we have interest-free payments of $167 per month. That makes this machine very affordable. But wait, that's not all. For a limited time, and while we have it in stock, we are offering a special bonus with your Altair purchase. So first, we're going to give this beautiful set of 63 spools of polyester embroidery thread. The beautiful shine and quality of this thread is quite amazing. Also, I'm including the Baby Lock Ultimate Stabilizer Bundle. This has the most popular rolls of stabilizer, from wash away to cut away, in different colors, and this will enhance your embroidery to give you a better quality. I'm also including the Baby Lock Altair Inspirational Guide. Now, the instructions on this machine is wonderful, but what's different about the Inspirational Guide, it is written by Baby Lock educators, assuming you know nothing about the machine. So it takes you through every aspect, giving you full color. It's over 300 pages of full color description, step-by-step description. And if you complete this Inspirational Guide, you truly know everything on this machine. We're including that. Plus, we're going to include a online membership to Baby Lock's Love of Knowledge. This has hundreds of videos that give you step-by-step details on how to use the machine and also do techniques. This is invaluable, and you get a membership to this as well. You also get our famous rose gold scissors. These scissors are wonderful, both the shears and the embroidery shears. But last and not least, we put together a very exclusive design bundle by Anita Good Design. It has 17 different collections, and it comes with over 400 design files, and it's truly amazing the variety you get with this. So all this, which equals over a $1,600 value, is free with your Altair purchase for a limited time. Now we will run out of these supplies, so this is while supplies last. So click on the link to order, or you can call us at 1-800-865-9664. You can email me at moreso@aol.com. But don't wait, this deal will surely end. But if you have any questions, again, call us at 1-800-865-9664. Bye for now.